Once again, as always, thank you to Freddie. Thank you to Jordan. I just want to say this. No, I didn't buy the channel. I made
Yeah,
these
I saw
videos last
that.
year. I'm sorry you don't remember them because the season was a fucking disaster. I did not buy the channel. Jordan is who I text to upload these videos. No, I am not doing I've written for City Extra. I am not replacing Jordan or anything like that. And I think I said it a little bit last year, and this is at the end of the video, and none of you are gonna watch this anyways. But I just wanted out there that, like, no, I'm not taking City Extra or anything like this. I texted Jordan and Freddie about this, like, hey, this is an idea that I have last year, and I'm starting the videos back up again because there's a new season. That's all. That's my rant. Hello and welcome to the Wolves review of Monday Morning Manager. My name is Dylan Meehan. I am a writer for City Extra. I am joined once again by the amazing Phil Casa. We are here to talk about Manchester City's thrilling 4-0 win over Wolves. I just got to say, I just want to know what your first thoughts were from the match, maybe your general consensus and kind of how you felt coming in.
Yeah. I was a bit worried coming in. I think we discussed that about how I thought this could be one of those matches that we really struggle with facing a low block. And when it started, I really felt like some of those vibes, like in those first early, I would say 30 minutes before that first goal went in, I was getting a little concerned. We were a bit open at the back. They were coming after us quite a bit, but I think we really turned it around. And I honestly left that match with overwhelming positive thoughts and like feelings about how we're going to go forward into this season and stuff like that. So I try not to overreact to the first match. I know it's super easy to, we're winning the league now, like it's like, the treble, everything. We're going to win it all because we look so good. But yeah, I think it was really positive, and I think all the new guys who you would want to see perform well performed to the way you would want them to.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think that when the match first started, a couple of those offside chances, the goal was something where I was like, geez, we are so susceptible on the counter. Again, it's just going to be another season where any chance the opposition is going to score with their first shot on goal. Fortunately, they kind of wrote it out, and 30 minutes in, it turned into the Tijani Reinders show, and he was just unbelievable. The chip to set up the first goal, the finish, really underrated finish that isn't just getting highlighted enough, that he just super simply passed it into the side netting. Just absolutely fantastic. But I really want to know for you, who were the players that stood out to you that you were the most excited about, and kind of just, yeah, with that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to start with Reinders, like you said. That's a 1% finish. The passes, he was just so involved too. I think that like the different roles that he was able to play in the match. Like starting off, he started super high in almost like this dual 10 role with Bernardo right next to Haaland. And then throughout the match, they kind of shifted. He ended up coming deeper quite a bit and being an outlet basically in our buildup and stuff like that. That's what that third goal came from, where he ended up finding Haaland in the end. Trafford was able to find him straight from a goal kick, control it, carry it, find Bob, link up, come back, and able to find Haaland with vision that basically feels like it's out of the back of his, out of the back of his head. So you can't really complain about anything. That's one of the best debuts I've ever seen. I was also super, super impressed with Oscar Bob. He gives you everything that you thought you would want out of Oscar Bob and out of a City winger. He did the thing where he's on the touchline, he's able to link up with your 10, he's able to link up with your midfield and give you all of that. But you saw in the assist that he got for Reinders, he's able to come into that 10 position and really give you like peak level 10 distribution and carrying and just being a smart player on the ball. So I was super impressed with him. I think that lastly, I'll go into Nico Gonzalez. What a performance! We had so many questions coming in about his ability to be Rodri in the aggregate in the time that he's missing, and how comfortable he is in possession and distributing the ball. And I just thought that it looked like a complete leap. Like it was a totally different player to what we had seen previously with him. So I'm really impressed and really excited to see where he is able to take his season, because that was a big question mark for me.
No, look, I totally agree. I mean, Reinders, I'd said it on the episode before, I thought he was a floor raiser type of player, someone that was just going to walk in immediately and have such a positive impact. And definitely was not expecting this, was not expecting a goal and assist and everything right off the jump, but really did just have an absolutely fantastic performance. Bob, it was just good to see him healthy, like just so fantastic. But I think for me, the player that I was most excited for is John Stones. I think that just seeing him healthy, I've been burned time and time again, and I don't care. It is a toxic relationship at this point, but I am I am here for it. He did fantastic. He had the stop on one of the first counterattacks that Wolves had. Super calm on the ball. I'm always going to be here for it, and so just super happy to see a healthy John Stones. Other one, Rico Lewis. Obviously, tons of rumors coming around that $25 million fee that Forest were apparently going to throw in. I was disgusted by, and I was really glad that seemingly stepped up. Seems that he's going to stay. Seems that he's here to have a kid that's been here since the academy and has such an insane technical quality, and it just immediately brings calmness. Super simple to recycle possession. It just comes so naturally to him. He's another person that I was really excited for, and obviously Haaland. I mean, the 2 goals, just he looked like a killer. The header that he missed with Bernardo wasn't fantastic. I also think that the ball over the top wasn't the best either, and he really had to stretch out for it. But both goals took him super well. And then lastly, Trafford. It's one match. Who knows? But when there's rumors of one of the best goalkeepers in world football is like coming for your position, I thought he looked fantastic. He was super comfortable in the air. He was really aggressive coming out for anything for sweeping, for coming in for crosses. Had a great save on one of those offside chances. I really thought he looked great, and obviously, yeah, setting up that goal that you had mentioned with a little dink over the top, and that goal is all because of him. That third goal. So overall, I thought those were fantastic performances.
Yeah, I really loved everything I saw from Trafford. I felt it, and I feel like a lot of people I saw felt it. How safe he made everybody feel at the back. He was really aggressive in his claiming and his flying out to make that one save that ended up being offside, but he still made the save, and it builds confidence in you. I think that a lot of the people who are very pro Trafford are very anti Ederson. I think those go hand in hand, but with the with the rumors of Donnarumma now coming in, I almost feel like all those people are now really hoping that Ederson stays, just because it gives more of a easy pathway for Trafford to come in. And I could definitely see that, because I think that Trafford showed you everything you would want to see if you want him to develop into being our first keeper. So yeah, I thought he had a great match. I think that the team looked like they really believed in him as well, which was very key.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say as someone who is still slightly pro Ederson, I think the main thing for me that I notice is I feel like Ederson, he's not someone that's going to catch the ball. He's never something. He parries everything away. It and I guess it felt nice to see someone be a little bit more aggressive and then also actually hold on to the ball and not have it like skirt out and anything like that. And it just seemed a little bit more secure. He's not as good with the ball at his feet. No one's going to be, and I don't think it's something. If Pep is willing to get rid of it, that should tell you something in and of itself. But yeah, I mean, I think it's we'll see. I don't. I feel like Donnarumma might not happen, but there's got to be another keeper because it seems like Ortega's on the outs. So we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. It's just one last player that I was impressed by, that I think we'd be remiss to leave out here, is Ryan Turkey. I think that that appearance was fantastic. I think for him getting left on the bench, I think that raises red flags for a lot of people who are watching. Oh, Bernardo starts, Ryan Cherky on the bench. Is this what we're going to see? And then he gets on, and Pep completely gives him the keys. And then in the post game, Pep heaps praise upon him in terms of his control and in terms of what he can provide, and calls him an amazing player. And it's just, you can see this coming. I think that anybody who has really concerns about how going to integrate, I think you can really honestly put those in a box. I think that he's here to stay, and I think that the coaching staff obviously very much believes in him. I would be shocked to see him not start some of these games coming up and stuff like that. So yeah, another great debut.
I loved the Henri celebration too. Just the callback. I the finish. It was such a little like it's like just a little tease as to what he can be as a player. And yeah, I'm all for it. So I'm
The
glad that
point,
both of our players that we were most yeah, the point yeah, it's super smart. He knows what he's doing. He knows what and I don't know if you
you
saw
know,
on Instagram. On Instagram, he tagged the Manchester City, like he tagged the badge or like with Manchester City, like right on his like heart and badge. Super smart. His publicist knows what they're doing. Really
yep.
making sure that he's, a beloved figure in the City fan base. All right, moving on from players who stood out, let's look on the other end. Curious to know the players, if there are any, that you were maybe disappointed by.
Yeah, I don't know if I would blame anybody for their performances. I think that a lot of the struggling that I'll maybe get into it here was tactical. Honestly, I think that left side. the right side was so amazing with Bob and Rico. It kind of paints a very different picture to what we saw with Aitnari and Doku on that left side. I thought that they were kind of getting in each other's way. Both seemed a little bit uncomfortable in the zones that they were being placed in. Ryan Aitnari was kind of in a more reserved role, I feel like, in this game, more of I want to say a left-sided center back type of fullback role, to where he was primarily defending and stuff like that. And I think this is kind of a result of also playing Rico Lewis at the same time, who also likes to go into midfield and gets a ton of freedom when he plays in midfield. He was going left to right, kind of at the base of the midfield. And I think that this kind of restricted Ryan Aitnari to being a really strict left and back type of player, which isn't really what I would say we bought him for, but is something that I thought he was okay in the role. But I feel like we were leaving something on the table with him, I think is why I would say that. And then Doku, I think just as a result of that, he didn't really have that much support. I feel up by him. He also didn't have his best dribbling game. He kind of lost some of the duels that I would expect him to win, given his physical superiority over his fullback and stuff like that. But you know, it's game to game, especially with dribbling players like that. It is very system dependent. So just chalk it up to a tough one, and he'll get back out there. I don't think this is anything that we should raise red flags about or sound any alarms about.
Yeah, it wasn't anything that I agree. I think that Doku is someone that normally when you see him have like a strong game, and it's the bad games are when he's consistently beating his man and then not finding anyone with the cross. And for me, it was just a quiet game. I wouldn't say that it was bad. And same thing, yeah. I mean, I think when you try to compare the left side and right side, you have basically Oscar Bob and Rico Lewis, which are players essentially created in the Manchester City Academy like lab that are just so technical on the ball, and it's just like they are basically like Pep hive mind players. And then when you have Stones there as well, and it's just like kind of the three of them are just so easily moving the ball around between the three of them that I think anyone on that other side is just going to stand out a little bit. And I'm not going to overreact to not having the most amazing. It's not his first professional game for City, but first game of the season after a long break. It's been a very weird preseason type of structure. It's nothing I'm too concerned about. I guess tactically, if you want to dive into that a little bit more, is that where you saw problems with how that those two were kind of deployed, or is there something else?
Yeah, I think that, like you said, this is basically our preseason. I think that we're figuring so much stuff out in terms of how we actually want those sides to operate and how these players can play together. Which combinations of players actually work together in the best way. There's a couple of player combinations that I was a little concerned about coming into the season. I was interested in the Ryan Aitnuri and his mesh with Marmoush and Doku. I was also really interested in a player like Cherky and how he meshes with Doku, given that how high usage both of them are. So I think that tactically, it's just going to be something for Pep to really tinker with. I think that on the bright side is that we gave them or he has been given a ton of tools this year and a ton of tools in his tool bag to make different solutions, which I think is when we always see the best out of Pep. Those are your 2021 type seasons, to where he just has all the players that he could imagine, every type of profile he could imagine, and eventually I feel like he'll land on a solution. So yeah, I think it's just going to be a lot of trial and error, especially considering how many different tactical variations we're going to see in the Premier League this year. I'm unsure if are we even going to see a similar setup against Spurs as they played this weekend. Who knows? Because everybody is chopping and changing so far early in the season, so we'll have to see on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's almost worth going back and looking at lineups and formations from like the first few weeks of the last few seasons because so much is going to change. But it did feel, at least for me, it did kind of feel pretty similar to what I would expect out of a City side. A lot of times in build up, it's like kind of almost this diamond of midfielders with Rico kind of stepping in. You had kind of, Nico at the back, and then usually it would be like one of either Reinders or Bernardo on the sides, with then Rico coming in, and then one of Bernardo and Reinders stepping up, and which it felt very typical of what I see for City, trying to get an extra man in midfield, win the numerical advantage that way.
Also, another thing with the way that we were set up, I was looking at the passing maps, like you said, compared to last season. Our passing map against Wolves last season in the first home game that we played against them, we were very pushed up. So all of our attacking players, when they were in their low block, were more in a flat line. We were trying to pick our passes in a really tight areas and in the pockets and pick them apart that way. If you look at our passing map from yesterday, we were much deeper, much more spread out. And I think that this is kind of a bit of like the Pep Linders effect, to where we're trying to create a lot more faux transitions where transitions don't really exist. Really trying to utilize the speed that we have in our front line now with Holland and Doku and even Bob, and Marmoush who came on, players that can really push the back line and stuff like that. So keeping everything a bit more spread out, bit more decompacted vertically on the pitch, really created opportunities for us to get in behind and run a bit. I think you saw that on a lot of the Reinders goal and the Reinders assist. Both were transition opportunities straight out of the back, or other ways of us generating transitions where we wouldn't have seen these in past years. So I think that that's a really interesting thing for us to develop and watch over the season.
Yeah, the Pep Linders effect, the new Pep effect for this team is something that I'm super curious about, and really trying to not overreact to one game, man. Like I remember some of the early, I mean, like the first Pep season, and I think it might have been the last Pellegrini season as well. I think City went like undefeated in the first 10 games both those seasons, and then obviously it was just a disaster of the season after that. So I really always try to kind of pump the brakes when this stuff happens. But yeah, I just
And we will slump.
so
We always
yeah,
slump. In October, November, we'll have a slump.
yeah,
It always happens.
always
But
every season, every
yeah,
season.
yeah. So
Do you have any overreactions? Not really. I don't think
uh,
either of us are really hot take people. That's not really something that I don't know, go by. It's not something I do naturally. But
I think
anything
that
from this match that you were like really high on?
yeah, I think the depth. I think the depth in the squad. Obviously, we have too many players. Pep went on to say it again. He's basically
Yep.
get out. You put Nico O'Reilly on before Gundo. Message sent. I think, in my opinion. Kusanov on before Akanji. Another message sent, in my opinion. I think that these are guys that he would ideally like to see go out the door. So I think that the depth, and the reason for that, the depth makes us so strong going forward that it wouldn't surprise me if we're able to compete deep into the season. I think that some of my worries about our high level attacking and stuff against low blocks has really been soothed, honestly, with what I saw. I think that we have that spark up front. Our guys seem super excited to play together. I saw Reinder's reaction after that first Holland goal, jumping, throwing his fist in the air. It's like that stuff means something. Like it means something to the fans, and it shows that it means something to them. And I think that I don't know. It's all exciting. I like you. I try not to get too carried away because we always have these moments in these, even the bad seasons, where we think we're going to do amazing. But yeah, it's looking really good. And lastly, I would just say Oscar Bob, everything that I thought he would be, like I said. So I think that he could have a season where he might lock down the right wing position. I don't know if we have a better player that can do it over there better than him. So if I was going to do an overreaction, I would say that Oscar Bob is probably going to be maybe a first 11 player if things keep going in this direction. I think that that's super exciting.
And I don't even know if that's an overreaction.
Yeah,
I It's a thing of like, yeah, we've barely seen him in a year, but if we think about a year ago, that's all it was. All it was, oh, this is his position. He was absolutely fantastic, and it's exactly what we thought was going to happen 12 months ago is what like that performance was. Yes, it's one performance. Yes, it's a Wolves side, which to be honest, I think is really not that great. I love Vitor Pereira as a manager. I think he's a fantastic manager, but I just don't think the squad's very good. But he absolutely showed off. The thing that I do think is interesting, and you do mention, Kusanov coming on, which I was really surprised about. Although I do think now that there's not like that rumored extra 5 million they have to pay or whatever, I do think that the pace that he offers, I think he hit the top speed despite being on for like 5 minutes.
he
I think the
floats.
pace that he offers is something where is just going to be needed. There are acres of space, behind this team with how far Diaz and Stones or whoever the center backs pairing are, how far they push up. You're always going to be susceptible to balls over the top. And Kyle Walker is thankfully not there acting as that free safety. So you do need a little bit of pace. On the last episode, I talked about like, no, I think Gundo's going to stay here. He's going to transition into being a coach. But it is a fair point with Nico coming on instead. We could fast forward, 3 months from now and think that we were really silly to think this, but it did feel, especially with his comments and the choices of subs, Pep chooses every word that he publicly says very, very particularly. And yeah, I think that's a really, really good point of some people might need to be heading out by the time the window closes.
Is he even going to make the bench? I was looking at who we left at home yesterday, like Rodri, Ake, uh, Foden, Kova,
Guardiola,
Gvardiol. Like some of these guys that were on the bench yesterday won't be on the bench going forward, like pretty regularly. Like, is he going to accept that? Like, there's a lot of time left to go in the window. I think that some minds could definitely be changed here real quick, depending on player performance and just reading the tea leaves, in the squad picks and the lineup picks over these next few weeks. So, be very interesting at that around that first international break time. The rumors that we start to hear.
yeah. Alrighty, well, it's going to be another busy 2 weeks for Hugo Viana, I'm sure. As
Mhm.
we, the madness in the beginning of the week ended up nothing's happening so far, which I was a little surprised about, but we'll see. Last thing I want to talk about is this upcoming run of games. Now, for those who may not be aware, for those who haven't looked, next week it's Spurs at home. It's Spurs home, not away, not that bad. Then Brighton away. Then we have an international break, which I actually think is the biggest curveball in all of this. So after Brighton away, we have an international break, and then immediately jump into United at home on September 14th, and then a week later, Arsenal away on September 21st. An insane run of 4 games. It's going to see play 3 of the big 6 sides, and Brighton, who I watched the Brighton Fulham match, and it was a match of football that I watched, is the best way that I could describe it. It was, I think there was 1 shot on goal in the first half. There might have been 2 shots on goal, and not a lot could be earned from. And Fulham get the super late equalizer that I honestly I was pretty surprised about overall. I'm not like terrified of Fabian Hertzler's Brighton, and City have always played well against them historically. But what are your thoughts on that stretch?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's a lot of toss-up games in there. Like, I would say that I would trust these games at home, but Spurs at home, we've had a mixed bag. I feel like with that over the years. We had that one game where Kulusevski absolutely dunked on our center backs to equalize in the end of that match. So you never really know with Tottenham, and then Brighton, obviously, very similar deal. I do feel more confident with Brighton. They like to play us aggressive. They don't really like to break
Yeah.
their style, and we usually really capitalize on that. Our players are really excited to play that type of matchup. But then
And I think
you're
playing at the Amex as well, being at Brighton, they're not going to really. It's even more of a reason to not sit back. And I mean, I think Holland in at least 2 games has had like the crazy over the top goals against them.
we always score transition goals against them. I feel like because they like to play the man-to-man press,
Yeah,
and it's just something that we can pretty regularly break through, just given our individual quality across the pitch. Then you go into United. United at home, it's you never know. I mean, that could be a game right after the international break to where we slump. Like we've seen it year over year to where we think we're going to beat United. They're terrible. We're great. It's at home. It should be a cakewalk, right? And it just never seems to actually be that. So that one's kind of nerve wracking. And then obviously we got steamrolled away at Arsenal last year. So we will. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen this year. We're a
yeah.
much stronger team, but anything could happen in that match. It wouldn't surprise me if we won, lost, or draw. Um, yeah, it's going to be that way with all the big four battles, top four battles this year. I think they're all going to be basically bloodbaths. Everybody's so strong. I mean, Liverpool, Chelsea had a weird match earlier today, so I was including them in that before. We'll have to, I guess, wait and see on that. But they, on paper, have a really strong squad too. So any of those matches will be really pivotal for this season. So I think it's really important that we get off to a good start in that Arsenal match and don't get blown away like we did last year.
Yeah. I specifically with Arsenal, that Arsenal match, I think City players are going to have a lot to say. I think Miles Lewis Skelly, if he plays, um, I think Holland's going to remember some stuff.
Target on his
I,
back for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I think that is going to be probably the game that they're most looking forward to because historically they have dominated Arsenal. Now there's no De Bruyne, who I actually think needed to be tried for crimes against humanity for what he has done to Arsenal over the years. So that is the interesting thing of like who is going to step up. But that is the match that I think is probably circled the most. Look, United were a dumpster fire last year. In the little bit that we've been able to watch of this game, that is the United Arsenal match is going on while we're recording. So the first half we were able to watch, the second half not as much. But obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but I really do think they're going to be much stronger this year. I think they've made some decent improvements, and it's a derby. You never know what can really happen, but I do think that is winnable, especially at home and how the team has looked so far. But just coming out of the international break, that's what makes it so kind of difficult. All it takes is Diaz picks up an injury, Stones picks up an injury, Haaland picks up an injury, and any of that can change for those matches. The Spurs at home is probably the trickiest, just because Thomas Frank has always played City super well. You looked at against PSG, they had the 2 goals off of set pieces, and then I mean Mohamed Kudus is just someone that I think can run rampant on this side, and he looked fantastic in that first game. And I'm not too worried about Richarlison, but that is just there's a team there, and with Thomas Frank, who's always had success, and now he has a much better squad overall. It's something that I think could easily be dropped points super early on.
Kudus caused us a lot of problems before. That last game, the 23-24 season where Foden scored the 2 goals to win the title, that game is remembered very fondly. But what I remember most from that game is being absolutely terrified of what Mohamed Kudus was going to do to us that day, because he dribbled our entire team 10 times, it felt like, and he scored the overhead kick goal. He's just
Yeah,
absolutely unplayable if you give him space. So, and we will give them space. We always do give teams space. So it will be very interesting to see how we cope with him. Very worried. I wouldn't say very worried, but very interested to see, I guess, how Ryan Nari, if he is playing left back in that game, is able to handle that, because I've seen more defensive fullbacks on that left side struggle with Mohamed Kudus. So it'll be very interesting for sure.
I was at that game. I
Okay.
was I minor humble brag, but all I remember is the Foden goal, and it just I might have blacked out. Like it just, and not like from like not even like from being just like hammered. Like I remember the nerves, freaking out. I remember getting in the Etihad. I remember like because I was like getting there kind of late. It was like I was trying to figure out where to go, and I just remember the goal going in, and and then I just remember like the celebrations after the fact. It is such a weird game for me, of just like having almost no memory after that moment. And yeah, we'll see. It's he's an unbelievable player, and I can't believe that no other top team went for him, and that Spurs were able just to slide in.
And is Savino going to be there when we play? Because if Savino's going to be there, he's scoring a goal, because they
Yeah,
always score against us. I feel like players that leave, they always end up scoring against us. So
the idea of him, I feel like that's maybe why they're taking a little while with this transfer, is they want to get this match out of the way. And it's
don't
just like
embarrass us.
they're being real difficult with the price, just to back down on August 24th. And then
Yep.
just like, oh, yep, sure. Here you go. 50 million. We'll take it.
Yep. So hey, it's exciting. I think it's an exciting time of year. I'm really excited to see these matchups. Honestly, I'm really excited to see what this team is made of, because like I've said many times over the summer and stuff, this team was embarrassed last season, and I think that fire and that hunger was very evident against Wolves, and they're going to want to get it back out against these bigger teams and really show the world. And, all those predictions of us finishing fourth behind Chelsea and stuff like that, they see all this stuff, like, and they
Did you
want
see
to
Jonathan Liu?
know.
Jonathan Liu is one of the main writers for, I think, The Telegraph. He had City finishing sixth.
Yeah, stuff like that. I've seen okay, but I've seen a bunch of like high level pundits put us in spots like that, and
And
it's tough.
that that's the part that I think is really frustrating, is this isn't some, to quote Sam Lee, this isn't some dickhead on Twitter that's just
Yeah,
like these are some of the most respectable voices in the sport. And it baffles my mind when some people, either they don't like remember what the injury crisis was, or any, like I just think people, it's like, oh no, Pep wants to leave, it's all falling apart, and it's like devoid of any context as to what last season was. And it just I feel like this is peak, no one believes in us, this is the most easy coach speak, like printing
Bulletin
out
board.
newspapers. Yeah, it is just the most, hey, look, one of the most respected journalists in the entire sport. Boom. This is how he thinks you're going to finish. It just seems like, in particular, man, it's a month away, but that Arsenal match, I think, is just going to be box office.
I think it's a consequence of people constantly, I don't know, the misinformation that goes on around City, the constant downplaying. I think that people dig themselves into a hole with that basically because they convince themselves that there isn't really anything going on at City. That everybody at City, all the players are basically overrated, and that it's a system. It only works as a collective and stuff like that. And then once they see it fail, well, it's like, oh, well, now that's no longer working. The collective's no longer carrying the individuals, and then we just see now we know these individual players are outstanding players and they're obviously going to come back, but if you don't believe that, it's probably hard to predict that City are going to do well. And I don't know, they're going to see. I think that it's pretty obvious that they're going to see what's changed this year, and it's a very different team. The vibe is completely different. It's a fresh team that's hungry instead of a team that just came off of 4 titles, so I think it's very different.
Did you watch the Pep press conference, like the on-field press conference after the
i,
match?
I missed it. I wasn't able to catch it.
I for work I have to like record all this stuff. But it was so one of the main things that kind of stood out, Tim Howard actually asked like a really good question. I was kind of surprised. No disrespect to Tim Howard. Love you, man. I remember the 2014 World Cup. That's the first time I ever saw De Bruyne. Hated that ginger running on the pitch, and then I ended up having to fall in love. But he asked about the desire and was like, what happened last season? What changed? And Pep was honest, a rare kind of like, it felt like very thoughtful answer. And he said that the players weren't starving. He didn't say hungry. He specifically said starving, and made an interesting comment of, you know, when you're winning, you're not injured. When you're losing, you are. And that felt very pointed as to like, okay, who was, and maybe it was just like the disaster of December and just all of these players. And that I thought was really interesting. Maybe it was a shot at Stones. I'm not sure. But
Grealish.
he also at Grealish. I mean, there's pick your player. And separate from that too is he said that it was a message to the club and a warning to the club for the future. And that really stood out to me because that doesn't sound like a manager who's going to be leaving. Because that's been another major talking point is that, oh, this might be Pep's last season and everything like that. If in the first match you're talking about how last season and how a short like a squad that didn't have a lot of reinforcements, that should be a warning to the club. Seems like someone that might be wanting to stay around.
Yeah.
Seems like someone that maybe thinks that some more changes might need to be made potentially, next summer. Seems like someone who has their eye on staying and I don't know, maybe signing another contract. We'll see.
Wouldn't surprise me. I think that, yeah, like you said, there was or like he said basically there was a lot of complacency, and not even just on the pitch. I think what he was hinting at there is at a board level in terms of bringing players in and stuff like that. People got really comfortable with what they were seeing, and instead of realizing that people were catching up to us and stuff like that, and in these other squads were bringing in more talented players in areas of the pitch than we were. We just thought that you could just run it back forever and ever and ever, and that's not the case. I think that he understands that and he wants that message to be known. And like you said, why would he want that message to be known if he's only caring about this squad this year? It doesn't really. You never know with him. He could be around 5 more years. He could leave after this season if we win the Champions League. It wouldn't surprise me, but I'd love to see him stay. Obviously,
I I think he's going to stay for a while. I was on one of the Shades of Blue pods literally like a couple hours after we recorded our last ep, and Crunk asked, he was like, "Do you think that this is Pep's last season?" And maybe it's just cope. Maybe I just am completely blind. I don't think that he's going. I think he's more likely to leave now that Cheeky is gone, wholeheartedly. But he's always
yeah.
said that as long as the players want him, he will stay. That's a very easy thing to say and just have that be like your public statement. But with his kids being older, without needing as many like ties to like back home, it seems like the personal life stuff, which I really don't want to get into. There's rumors that that's like in a much better situation now.
Yep.
That's all. I'm really just kind of like, I just want to leave it at that. I think it's kind of gross to publicly talk about that stuff, and I wouldn't want that talked about. but he's just someone that I think is Holland signing that extension. I think says something during the most disastrous run of games, and so I don't think it's crazy to think that he's going to stay longer. I really don't. He has the financial backing at City that he's not going to have anywhere else. It's just not even a discussion. He's not going to go back to Barcelona. He said that. He's not going to go back to Bayern with how he feels about just like German culture. If you read up about, like, if you read the books that Marty Paranow has like written, he did not enjoy his time at Bayern. He's not going to want to go back to Barcelona. That leaves very few teams, very few teams that have the financial backing, unless he wants to go into international, and that's a totally separate game.
Yeah. Yeah, I just got one last question for you, basically. I was thinking about it. With the Holland contract and everything like that, how do you feel about him like taking on this like ambassadorial role? Like he is like basically like doing everything. Like when we get transfer links, he's liking these players' accounts. He's out here speaking for the club and stuff like that. It feels like an
La
NBA
GM.
superstar. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It really feels like he's shipping players out who he doesn't want. He's getting them in if he wants them. It's interesting to me.
I don't love it, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like, I'm not. This isn't like no one's bigger than the. I mean, it is, but like he understands his power. I don't think that him liking a post at the end of the day is like the biggest thing ever. I think it is a little bit of just like being terminally online
Yeah.
as someone who's terminally online, but it has to matter in a little bit of a sense of like if he, especially for creative players, I think it really matters if he's like, no, this is someone that I know that I can gel with. This is someone that like I know that I can have chemistry with, or like the way they play, or like he has such this innate understanding of the game already, just from like a positioning standpoint, to where if there's an attacker that he wants, I think it makes sense for Pep at the very least to take that into consideration. Um, and he's going to be a City have never had a superstar like this. De Bruyne wasn't like this. Silva wasn't like this. Aguero wasn't like this. Not on the same level of popularity and like global impact. And so it's weird. It does feel like LeBron, like esque in a way. I just personality wise, that doesn't seem to be what he's like, but that's a thing that like these are little signs now that potentially 3-4 years from now really start to like maybe look a little scary.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we'll see. I don't think it's going to be anything. I think it's like more meme type content than anything else, but it it does get me a little freaked out.
I like seeing a little bit of it. I wouldn't like to, like you said, I would be worried if it expanded into something to where he was actually like calling shots a bit like
Yeah,
Mbappe at PSG or something like that to that level. But I do like to see it just for the commitment. It shows how in he is. He
totally.
is here beyond the
Great point.
contract. Even with the decade long contract, I feel like everybody always is talking about like, oh, he could still leave, he could do this, he could do that. Him managing this club basically, like if he's like getting a say in all these different things, it just shows how much that he's going to be here for the long haul. He's not looking anywhere else. I think that's really important for stability and just for bringing in these other superstars. They want to see him committed and stuff like that because we had people who wanted to come play with Kevin De Bruyne for years. Now people are going to want to come play with Erling Haaland. I think that
Yeah.
presence is really important. So yeah,
And I mean, I think it was a big talking point with, I think Pep has wanted him to be more of a leader. And so see, maybe this is that way, which seems weird.
with the
But
captaincy too.
yeah, like it's just, you know, because he was named a vice captain, yeah?
Yeah, he's in the
Yeah,
group.
yeah. And because this is the first year it wasn't voted by the players, it was picked by Pep, which
Hmm.
is a whole other thing. But man, maybe this is that. This is like how for him, it's like if you want me to like be a leader, this is kind of how it works for me. I'm completely talking out of my own ass and I do not know, but it's just something that maybe that is how he
Yeah.
can kind of like lead and prove for the rest of the team.
Yep. I agree. I agree. I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't on the schedule, but
No, I love it. I actually
yeah.
it was a fantastic question. Anything else?
Nope. I think that's it.
Alrighty. Well, look, once again, as always, thank you to Freddie. Thank you to Jordan. I just want to say this. No, I didn't buy the channel. I
Yeah,
made
I
these
saw
videos
that.
last year. I'm sorry you don't remember them because the season was a fucking disaster. I did not buy the channel. Jordan is who I text to upload these videos. No, I am not doing I've written for City Extra. This is not I am not replacing Jordan or anything like that. And I think I said it a little bit last year, and this is at the end of the video, and none of you are gonna watch this anyways. But I just wanted out there that like, no, I'm not taking City Extra or anything like this. I texted Jordan and Freddie about this, like, hey, this is an idea that I have last year, and I'm starting the videos back up again because there's a new season. That's all. That's my rant.
I saw those comments. I was like, uh-oh. I saw somebody
Yeah.
said these two bought the channel. I was like,
Yeah,
whoa,
two
wait a minute.
Americans coming
Yeah.
in. I'm not at all. That's nothing has nothing to do with that. That's all I've got. Thank you for watching. See
Yeah.
ya.
Yeah.